Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are immersing ourselves in a really fascinating stack of sources. They seem to intentionally blur the line between, ancient spiritual ideas and what sounds like structured energy science. We're looking at practices that aren't framed as just faith or tradition. They're presented almost as a highly specialized technology.
It's definitely an intellectual challenge. What's quite fascinating here is the effort, the really dedicated effort, to frame ritual not just as belief, but as a maybe verifiable structured energy process. They use terms like spiritual contra energy science, Atatmic Tantra Ujjavidyan, and cosmic energy science, Khagolya Ujjavidyan. It's like they're treating the esoteric almost as operational physics.
Yeah, operational physics is a good way to put it, and we're focusing specifically on the work of Tushar Shukla. He's the founder of occult Vijnana. He guides us through this concept he actually defines as a possibility activation process. Sounds pretty profound. It's described as working way beneath the surface of, say, traditional worship. The aim seems to be fundamentally resetting someone's energetic blueprint.
Exactly. And the specific vehicle for this deep dive, it's the Sri Lakshmi Narsing Energy Invocation Ritual. And this process is apparently so rare, the sources really emphasize this. It was only recently reactivated for just the second time in 160 years. So for you listening, we're going to explore the rigorous techniques, the really extraordinary sacred geography involved, and the intense purpose behind achieving this kind of deep spiritual release.
Okay, let's start with the guide himself, Tushar Shukla. The sources say he has about 2 decades of experience working in spiritual and tantric healing and medicine. And that depth seems critical, right? Because it helps explain why this work is so explicitly separated from, general religious practice. They really stress this is not a performance, it's not a quick fix or a temporary band-aid. It's described as a meticulously constructed sacred process, rooted entirely in, what they present as observable energy principles. Precisely. And if we kind of accept that premise, that this is an energetic application, then the purpose becomes incredibly specific. This ritual, it's apparently designed for people trapped in these persistent, really debilitating life problems. The kind where modern solutions, or let's say ordinary solutions, have just completely failed. Think about issues that just seem to defy conventional logic or explanation.
Right. And here's what seems to be the central idea binding it all together. This deep work isn't just about fixing external problems you can see or physical ailments. It's specifically working to break what they call the unseen bonds, the Drisha Bandhan, bonds attached directly to the soul itself. So if you feel like your life has this sort of invisible grip on it, constantly pulling you back from success or peace, this is the mechanism they're aiming to dismantle. We should probably unpack those unseen bonds a little bit more.
Yeah.
The sources describe them as these sort of energetic blockages, or maybe karmic residue, things that prevent the soul from aligning with its, true potential. An ordinary ritual might give some temporary relief, maybe, but this process aims for udhar. That means spiritual deliverance or like permanent upliftment. It specifically targets that underlying darkness, that blockage. It's almost like a metaphysical liberation.
Okay, metaphysical liberation. So if the goal is that fundamental breaking bonds attached right to the soul, it makes sense that the environment would have to match that intensity. You couldn't just conduct this kind of energy activation process in, say, a shopping mall parking lot.
No, you certainly couldn't. And that brings us right to the sacred geography, which is treated not just as a setting, you see, but as an active component, part of the energy system itself.
The location is Naimish Aranya. That's Terani's Kuavano. It's a specific forest or wilderness area chosen for its just staggering spiritual legacy. I mean, the claims made about the site are truly remarkable. They give you a sense of the kind of power they're trying to tap into.
Well, for instance, it's described as the 8th terrestrial Vaikuntha, Ashtambu Vaikuntha, which is basically claiming it's an earthly manifestation of the supreme spiritual realm. That's quite a claim. And furthermore, there's this belief that 88,000 rishis, these enlightened sages, are still secretly meditating there, even today.
Wait, 88,000 rishis still meditating there now? That's not a small number you just throw around?
Yeah.
If that claim has any energetic weight behind it, how does that translate into, usable energy for a ritual today? Is that purely symbolic, or is the location literally functioning like some kind of giant spiritual battery?
The sources really insist on the latter, the battery idea. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the choice of location reflects this concept of the tapastali, a place of intense, severe penance over ages. Every prayer, every meditation, every significant spiritual event performed there. Like Lord Rama performing the Ashwamedha Yagna 10 times during the Treta Yuga. All of that is seen as having deposited, like, concentrated spiritual energy into the very land itself.
Okay, so the site itself is this immense energy accumulator, where the divine power isn't just historical memory, but it's considered actively presently available right now. And that serves as the necessary amplifier to perform a possibility activation of this, well, magnitude.
Exactly right. The sheer sort of energetic density of Naimisharanya is what supposedly allows the purification steps, the invocation steps, to reach the necessary depth, to actually touch the soul and break those unseen bonds. The physical space isn't passive. It's a critical component of the energetic technology they're using.
All right, so we've got the power source established, Naimisharanya. Now let's dive into the actual structured technical process. The sources really emphasize this isn't random chanting. It's described as a scientific compilation of Vedic traditions, step by step.
Yes, and the foundational requirement, step 1, is Shuddhikaran, purification. Absolutely essential preparatory work. You can't skip this.
And how deep does this purification actually go? I mean, we're talking about prepping the body and soul for what sounds like a massive energetic download.
It needs to be rapid, and it needs to purify both the inner and outer self. The idea is to raise the individual's, let's call it, energetic bandwidth. It involves specific elements, like reciting the Dashvidi Snan, that's the 10-method bath, and the Yagna Diksha, the sacred thread initiation. But these aren't just like simple bathing or dressing rites. They're systematic methods for clearing out all the accumulated internal clutter, physical, mental, spiritual junk. It ensures the yajman, the person undergoing the ritual, is basically an optimized vessel, ready for the intense energy work that follows.
Okay, so it's about fine-tuning the receiver before you crank up the volume.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Once that purification is done, the process moves to step 2, Arani Manthan, wood churning. This is often shown as the most visually dramatic moment, right?
Yeah.
And key to the ancient Vedic science they're using.
Yes, and the difference here is crucial. It really illustrates their commitment to actual energy generation rather than just convenience. The fire is not lit with a matchstick or lighter. That's forbidden. It has to be generated through precise friction. The churning of specific types of wood, done with specific methods, accompanied by specific mantras.
Okay, why? Why is generating fire this way so important? What energetic difference does friction make compared to just, burning some fuel you brought along?
Well, think about it. If you light a fire with a match, you're basically utilizing an existing chemical reaction. It's convenient. But when you generate fire through Arani Manthan, the idea is you are symbolically, and they'd argue practically, invoking Agni, the elemental fire god, into existence. Right there, right then. They literally call it the invocation or entry point of fire itself. This newly created fire is seen as absolutely pristine, highly responsive, generated from a clean slate perfectly tuned to carry the energy of the sacred offerings, the Ahudi. It signals creating energy from zero, perfectly aligned with the ritual's specific frequency.
Wow. Okay, that distinction changes everything. It's not just about having heat, it's about the conscious creation of a living energy form. But even with a sacred location like Naimisharanya and this pristine generated fire, how do you coordinate all these moving parts? You mentioned hundreds of mantras, offerings, participants. How do you get all that to hit the exact right frequency for this possibility activation?
That's where the science part, the Vigyan and occult Vigyanam, really comes in. The effectiveness hinges entirely on precise coordination. The sources are incredibly rigorous on this point. Every single mantra, every offering, Ahudi, the physical setup, the orientation towards every direction, it all has to align with what they call a highly awakened sound system.
Okay, a sound system aligned with?
Aligned with precise Khagolya cosmic calculation. Think of it like tuning an extremely sensitive radio telescope to pick up a faint signal from deep space. They aren't just picking a good day on the calendar. They are calculating the precise celestial alignment, the movements of planets, stars, to establish this momentary perfect synchronization with the external cosmic energy field.
That makes the whole thing sound less like a spiritual ceremony and more like a precision timing mechanism for some kind of cosmic energetic generator. You've got the immense power of Naimisharanya, the perfectly purified vessel, the yajman, the pristinely invoked fire, all synchronized by sound frequencies and exact astronomical timing.
That is exactly the synthesis they seem to be aiming for.
Yes.
Their claim, fundamentally, is that this is a defined process, a process where science, tantra, and faith meet to create miracles. But only if all the variables, sound, material, geography, timing, purity, are aligned perfectly. It's presented as an operational framework designed specifically to affect deep internal transformation.
Okay, let's bring this incredible intensity back down to the individual, the person at the center of it all, the Yajman. If all this energy, all this precision was marshaled, what was the actual concrete result for the person supposedly bound by years of those unseen bonds?
Right, and this is where the sources provide a really vital anecdote, almost like a proof of concept. Before this invocation, the Yajman was described as being in this exhausting state, constant internal conflict, this unseen grip, the Adrisha Bandhan. It manifested as just inexplicable failures in pretty much every major life area. Financially stuck, emotionally turbulent, constantly undermined by what felt like just invisible opposition. They were apparently trapped in darkness, experiencing zero forward momentum no matter how hard they tried.
A perfect, if difficult, example of that unseen opposition they talk about. So what happened? What was the visible outcome after the Sri Lakshmi Narsing energy invocation was actually completed?
The change, according to the sources, was profound
Yeah.
and immediate. They state the individual achieved this deep, lasting peace almost overnight. That energetic grip, the Adrisha Bandhan, was broken, leading to a very visible shift in their life's trajectory. The Yashman is now described as completely peaceful and actually moving towards a successful new life. Finally, free of that spiritual inertia that had defined their past for so long.
That specific, tangible transformation that really provides the powerful message at the heart of this whole deep dive, doesn't it? That deliverance, that udar might actually be possible. Even when conventional reality offers zero solutions, it demonstrates, or at least claims to demonstrate, that this entire structure, this ancient technology, was successful. Successful in touching the core consciousness, the chit, of the individual.
And that really is the stated objective of sharing this science, this Vijnanam, with the world. It's not presented as an appeal to just, blind faith. It's presenting the results of what they frame as a structured science, so that this knowledge, this potential for peace and power, reaches those who are genuinely seeking liberation from their own invisible limitations. The whole system illustrates this powerful combination. You have Lord Narsing's divine spiritual power, the precision of the mantra performance, the dedication of the experienced acharyas, all working together in concert.
So, to quickly recap for everyone, we've covered the core structure of this Sri Lakshmi Narsing energy invocation. We looked at the intense purification, Shuddhikaran, the fire generation, through Arani Manthan, and the critical role of the massive power source that is the sacred site of Naimisharanya. And we understand this was an incredibly rare activation, only the second time in 160 years focused entirely on achieving spiritual deliverance, on breaking these profound internal bonds.
It's certainly a compelling look at how ancient knowledge can be preserved and, well, potentially applied.
So what does this all really mean for you, listening to this?
Well, if we take the claims seriously, that the entire framework of this ritual, down to the friction used for the fire, the synchronization of every sound, every cosmic alignment, if all that is truly designed to open up a possibility activation process, it really forces us to reconsider the nature of reality itself, doesn't it? What fundamental principles of energy, maybe time, consciousness, what's being harnessed by these ancient systems. Systems that are described as so specific, so quantifiable in their own terms, yet they remain completely outside the scope of what modern science can currently measure, or even perhaps understand. That, I think, is the fascinating question we leave you to explore.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are immersing ourselves in a really fascinating stack of sources. They seem to intentionally blur the line between, ancient spiritual ideas and what sounds like structured energy science. We're looking at practices that aren't framed as just faith or tradition. They're presented almost as a highly specialized technology.
It's definitely an intellectual challenge. What's quite fascinating here is the effort, the really dedicated effort, to frame ritual not just as belief, but as a maybe verifiable structured energy process. They use terms like spiritual contra energy science, Atatmic Tantra Ujjavidyan, and cosmic energy science, Khagolya Ujjavidyan. It's like they're treating the esoteric almost as operational physics.
Yeah, operational physics is a good way to put it, and we're focusing specifically on the work of Tushar Shukla. He's the founder of occult Vijnana. He guides us through this concept he actually defines as a possibility activation process. Sounds pretty profound. It's described as working way beneath the surface of, say, traditional worship. The aim seems to be fundamentally resetting someone's energetic blueprint.
Exactly. And the specific vehicle for this deep dive, it's the Sri Lakshmi Narsing Energy Invocation Ritual. And this process is apparently so rare, the sources really emphasize this, it was only recently reactivated. for just the second time in 160 years. So for you listening, we're going to explore the rigorous techniques, the really extraordinary sacred geography involved, and the intense purpose behind achieving this kind of deep spiritual release.
Okay, let's start with the guide himself, Tushar Shukla. The sources say he has about 2 decades of experience working in spiritual and tantric healing and medicine. And that depth seems critical, right? Because it helps explain why this work is so explicitly separated from, general religious practice. They really stress this is not a performance, it's not a quick fix or a temporary band-aid. It's described as a meticulously constructed, sacred process, rooted entirely